Why'd you gotta laugh? See?
I started early. Once I stopped talking, I clicked record, and I'm like, I can't even do this when I'm supposed to.
We had it. Like we're gonna get this
best
down.
Openings.
We're gonna get this down one day.
Nicolas Cage, he plays this hot shot.
There we go! Innovative uses of duct tape.
Never.
Hey guys, it is Sunday night, and that means it's time for another episode of the Cluster. I am Slider, your host, and tonight with us is Brandon.
Hey guys.
And since the movie of the week belongs to Dante,
Hi.
he will be on camera in a weird angle kind of way.
Well, he's behind the scenes.
He's behind the scenes, and you're going to get a glimpse behind the scenes of how this show works. And notice
But just a glimpse.
he's not in the wide angle shot.
No, I'm not.
But, so, we are talking about Brad Pitt and Anthony Hopkins in Meet Joe Black. And that is Dante. So, take it away.
Okay, yeah, so this movie, it's a long movie, first of all. Awesome and long. So, what's basically going on is Anthony Hopkins there, he's having a heart attack or whatever. He hears a voice going like, yes, and you have no idea what's going on. And what you discover pretty quickly is, like, he's this big, high-powered guy who has tons of money just based on his house. You learn that he is basically about to die. And the voice in his head is death saying, like, yes, you're going to die soon. And it turns out that death is Brad Pitt. And Brad Pitt, death comes and says, like, I kind of want to see what this world is like. I want to experience it. So I want you to show me around. And so that's basically the super simplistic A story. But there's also so much more to this movie than that, because before even Brad Pitt even gets revealed as death, he's a different character. Anthony Hopkins has a daughter who's a doctor, and she meets Brad Pitt in this little coffee shop. But he's not death at that point. He's actually just some normal guy who kind of sweeps her off her feet. And they kind of have this weird moment thing, and that character's finalist scene is pretty epic. It's hard to describe, and I kind of don't want to ruin it, but it's awesome.
I've got to go.
Yeah. Listen, did I say something wrong?
No.
No?
No.
Sure.
No. It was so right. It scares me. That's all.
You know, I was thinking I don't want you to be my doctor. I don't want you to examine me and...
Why?
Because I like you so much.
And I don't want to examine you.
You don't? Why not?
Because I like you so much. Oh, boy. Okay. Now I gotta go, so...
Yeah, understood.
Okay, all right.
Fair enough. I'll see you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
just great if you can watch it with someone who hasn't seen it before, like we got to today. We wish we had that on camera because that was pretty amazing. So, so basically, that girl is like the daughter is in love with Brad Pitt's character as the regular person, and even when he comes back as Death, he is a completely different character, but she still ends up completely smitten with him, even though she's with this other guy who is part of Anthony Hopkins' board of directors. And throughout the course of this film, you see Anthony Hopkins trying to deal with like Death following him around all the time. Death learning what life is like, and he loves peanut butter, he discovers pretty early on, just loves the stuff. And there's actually a whole lot of discussion about like relationships, you know, like what it's like, you know, to love people, whether it's, you know, like a potential mate or family. Like both kind of loves are very strongly in this movie. You learn like what it is to be like a decent person. Like Anthony Hopkins is like an actual, like that's one of the reasons Death chose him. You learn later in the movies, like you're a good man who led a good life, and you're someone who like you're an example. I want to see what it's like. You know, you're a good person to follow. And there's actually all sorts of like little different things weaved in and out, and just the power of like this. Death is basically a kid. It's like he's never experienced this world, but he's got the ultimate power. So you can't threaten him with anything. And Anthony Hopkins is, you know, this, you know, big dog of a huge company that's in the middle of a merger that's having all this going on, and so he's not used to being pushed around by anybody. And like it's a very interesting dynamic in a bunch of different characters interacting with each other, and it's a very slowly paced movie, and it's, I think, just right for the film. It's a beautifully done, beautifully filmed, beautifully acted movie. It's great to watch, I think. What did you guys think?
Brandon, go ahead.
I was the one that had never seen the movie before, so they got to see my reaction to the character that Brad Pitt played prior to him becoming Joe Black. And I myself wish they had caught it on camera, because it was epic. It was awesome. I wish I could see someone else's reaction to that.
I actually forgot to mention, like, we both got to see your reaction. I got to see Slider's reaction the first time he saw it too. So yeah.
Was it similar?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
However, that being said, since I have not seen it, I thought it was amazing. It totally unexpected. Last week when I said that I'm not looking forward to that, I was completely thinking of a different movie. I honestly, I think I was thinking of Joe's Apartment.
Oh, yeah. I can totally see why you wouldn't want to see that movie. It's a movie about roaches.
Yeah, so that's why I was like, I'm not looking forward to that. But, no, this was amazing. And it's so early in Brad Pitt's career. Wow, he could act even then. Like, oh my God. Like, just him as Joe Black, because, you know, as Dante said, he's like a child. You got to see that these emotions actually come across how I could see someone doing this had they never tasted peanut butter, had they never heard terms such as, you know, it's final, like death and taxes, just things like that. Like he had all these innocent questions that someone in that predicament would have, and I thought it was very well done on his part.
One thing to go to that point that I actually think is kind of interesting is I've heard people, like a lot of people love Brad Pitt as an actor, and he's not underrated at all. He's very respected, very well known, and very, like, most people give him credit where credit's due. But people have actually said he was miscast in this movie. Like, I've heard people say, like, as much as they love Brad Pitt, he wasn't the right guy in this movie. I don't agree.
Who the hell would be... Like,
I honestly can't remember who it was who said that, but like I heard that, I'm like, wow.
What would have been their suggestion to replace Brad Pitt with?
I have no idea.
Tom Cruise.
I don't know, but I don't know.
What did you think?
I wish I could share you guys' sentiments, but this movie's long. It's drawn out. I don't think the acting's all that great. I don't really understand what the big deal behind this film is. I mean, it just takes forever for them to get to the point, you know, and it's just they just blather on and on and on. It's one long diatribe on what it is to live and die. Just not
Obvious troll is obvious.
Only because you know how I feel about the movie. I love this movie.
You can see it even in your face.
I mean, I'm going to admit this, and this is one of the films that did it. I have a man crush on Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt is the kind of man men want to be, you know, or plays men that men want to be. I find this movie has everything I love about movies and about acting, because I think it is amazing.
I disagree.
Well, you have to wait until I'm done. I think it is amazing
Something to say and I can't say.
that he. How do you prepare to play death? How do you prepare to be a character that has never experienced anything and do it convincingly?
That's why I mentioned the act. That was amazingly done.
Yes, and one of the comments I made during the film was, if I was a young actor like Brad Pitt was at the time, and I read in a script that I had to stare down, Anthony Hopkins, I had to shit my pants. I mean, and he does it. He puts Anthony Hopkins' character in his place. He's like, I am death. I have the power here. You're going to back the fuck up. And Bill Parrish, Anthony Hopkins' character, does. And it is an amazing performance. And there's no one that does a bad performance in this film. No one. I mean, this film is as close to perfect as you can get. The writing is phenomenal. And the lead actress, Claire Forlani, she plays Susan Parrish. I go through this process every time I watch this movie, okay? Because I am completely in love with her. Completely in love with Susan Parrish, okay? Then, I don't watch Meet Joe Black for a while. And I go back and I watch it. And when she first gets shown, I'm like, she's not all that attractive. Like, what? I don't understand why I was so...
Apparently he's on crack when he first starts watching the movie.
Right? And as the movie progresses, she wins me over.
As the wears off.
Okay? And and there's a point, like I'm able to pinpoint when I fall in love with this character, right? And it's when she stands up to...
Drew? So, I'll see you tomorrow night?
You include me out. I've had enough of the convocations.
You don't mean that. You don't want to disappoint Dad.
Daddy will do fine. Besides, he's got Joe. And it seems you do too.
You're out of line.
Well, that may be, but I don't like the ubiquitous creep. I don't like the way he looks at you. I don't like the way he talks to you. And vice versa.
I'm sorry. Because I like the way he looks and talks to me. And vice versa. Okay?
Not okay. Thought we had a good thing going here. I thought it was a good thing. It just goes to show you never know. Night.
He leaves her over it, and she's like, fuck it.
I think it makes sense from Drew's perspective, though, because he's basically like, you're mine. Like, you don't... That's not how friends act towards each other.
That's
true.
Like, I'm not saying he did anything wrong.
Now, while Drew is a giant asshole...
Yeah, he is. He's a dick.
At that moment, that wasn't known, and he did have a point.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that he was wrong. And I think he's justified in feeling the way he did. But the fact that he put his thing down and she brushed it off. I loved that. I love that. And then the very next line is,
How long have you been standing there?
I don't like the way he spoke to you. But I feel better now because of the way you spoke back.
I understand this is a work of fiction. I understand that this is a movie. But there is a big part of me that believes everything that happens in this film. I believe that Susan and Bill Parrish are father and daughter and that they really love each other. I believe that Susan Parrish and Young Man in Coffee Shop, which is his name. He actually never gets a name in the film.
That's actually something I want to bring up when you're done making your point.
Okay. I believe that she's hit by lightning during that conversation. You know, what she says to him. When he says, "Did I say something wrong?" She says, "No, you said something so right it scares me." You know, I believe that they're feeling those things in this movie. I can't believe that I don't, and I'm not saying that this didn't happen because I don't know, but it's like I can't believe they weren't actually in a relationship. You know, and the relationship between him and his two daughters and how different they were, and his relationship with his work, you know, his board, you know, and his relationship with Drew, and his relationship with his son-in-law. They were all different, distinct, really believable relationships.
That's something I was trying to say in the beginning of my little opening, but not quite so clearly. Like there were a lot of different relationships happening, and a lot of dynamics, and they were all like really well done.
You know, I mean, this movie's so good, so good.
Yeah. The one thing that I was going to disagree on, because you said it has everything that you love in movies, the one thing I will say is it does not have battles. You do, you do like battles.
I do like battles, but battles aren't what got me into acting or
no,
movies.
No. I'm not saying that, but you
know.
said it. You know, that is the one thing.
So I think you're misunderstanding what I'm saying, though.
Nah.
This is a true representation of good storytelling. Like from start to finish. This is an excellent story, told excellently.
I was also surprised when Brad Pitt broke out in like the Jamaican accent kind of thing. I was like,
oh yeah,
that's a beautiful scene. A beautiful scene.
Obia.
No, Mama.
Obia, man. I'm going to die.
Mama, stop it. It's just a man.
What's Sophia?
Bad spirit. She just thought fever. She don't mean nothing. Please help us.
Of course.
No, be a sister. No devil, no dopey. Everything gonna be irie.
Have you registered?
It's shocking at first, but then like once you get over, oh my God, he's doing a Jamaican accent. Which that subsides after like 5 seconds, and then you're back into the scene, and you're hearing the conversation, and that shock is kind of funny because it's on the faces of everyone else in the scene too.
Right.
Like what? But before we move on or continue down that path, I was gonna. You mentioned Young Man in Coffee Shop was that character's name in the movie, right? And we learn his fake name is Joe Black. Now, at the very end of the movie, Joe Black leaves and Young Man in Coffee Shop comes back. Spoilers, like you didn't know. Okay, maybe it's not so bad. Because I was gonna say, how is he not going to be Joe Black anymore? But I don't know why my brain just had a meltdown before I started talking. Because they make it very clear that she understands this is not the same person anymore.
But what I think is so special about that is Brad Pitt, the way he plays a character, he isn't the same person anymore. I mean, when he shows up as Death, he's not the guy in the coffee shop. You know, those are two distinctly different people.
Absolutely.
And it's so, like, you know, you would expect some kind of, well, you know, that doesn't make any sense. No, he is a different person, and it's so well done. I can't tell you how, I'm so gay for this movie.
It was very well done. You can see even just like little characteristics. The way he smiles completely differently as Young Man in Coffee Shop.
Yes.
Like that's definitely like one of the bigger things that's noticeable Like he doesn't have the same smile. He doesn't have the same gestures.
Yeah, he's very much more apprehensive as Death, especially towards the beginning when like he doesn't understand anything that's going on. Like watching him, like when she said like, "Can I kiss you?" and then she does. That's like, okay,
Yeah.
That's an interesting way to try to kiss, I guess.
Yeah, he just stood there.
I have to imagine people that like children feel this way about their children as they see them grow up, experiencing new things for the first time, and see, because that is really what you get from this character. But you know, in a very intelligent, eloquent way. The character of Death actually is a very eloquent character. You know, just the way he introduces himself, and the way he tries to explain things to Parrish is, you know, it's very, I don't want to say Shakespearean, but it is very in-depth, very, very eloquent, very involved. There's a word for this, and I don't know what it is, but it gives you strong imagery.
Okay.
And gives you a clear understanding of what he's saying.
One thing that I thought was kind of surprising, which I forgot about until we started rewatching it, the movie has a surprising amount of humor in it. Like, you're watching...
A lot of it revolves around Joe himself, though, not knowing things.
Yes, that is a pretty decent portion of it. But there's that character who's... I can't remember who he is.
Quince.
Yeah, Quince. Like, half the stuff he does ends up being funny, even though... It's not slapstick or anything. He's just so almost out of place.
Well, he is out of place. He's so different from the rest of the people around him. The only reason he's part of that company is because he's married to Parrish's daughter.
Well, one of the first lines that that I heard from him was that's at least memorable was, "I like little girls."
Oh, yeah.
And his wife looks at him like,
and then really? he's like, "Oh no.
He's more of the everyman.
Yeah, like he's new money.
Yeah, even
definitely new money.
When they're talking about the party, and she's like, "Oh, senators and the president will be there," and he's like, "Any jocks?" It's like anyone, golf pros, anyone I can have a conversation with, and he knows he's different from the rest of them, but he's like that clumsy happy puppy that you have,
Oh yeah, I at one point in the movie I was like, is he just drunk? Like just things that he would say, like we're just
he doesn't know all of
compared to everyone else.
Yeah, he doesn't know all the appropriate, elitist things to say and do all the time.
Right.
He's just a
but
regular
it
guy.
Worked.
Yeah, he's genuine,
yes,
and he has
extremely genuine.
Yeah, and he has the Parrish's best wishes at heart, and he does everything he can to try to.
Well, and he was one of the only two people on the board to back Parrish up when Drew was being a dick and trying to kick him out.
Yeah,
yeah,
which is something we didn't even mention yet that was actually happening.
So there's this big corporate merger taking place, and we actually talked about this a little bit before the show. Going back all the way to the beginning, Bill Parrish is not well. He's having heart attacks, but he doesn't tell anyone because he's a big, powerful person, and he's just not used to being in a vulnerable position. But a lot of it has to do with the fact that there is this big merger going on, and he can't be perceived as weak, right? So, and that just lays the foundation for this really good introduction of Death, because whenever something happened, the first thing you heard was this voice, yes. And it was Death answering a question. And, it had, Parrish had to come around to what the question was. It was, every time something happened, he asked himself, he's like, am I going to die? And that is actually something I wanted to point out too. The voice of Death, up until the time you see Brad Pitt's face, is Anthony Hopkins. Right? It's his own voice.
And that's a pretty interesting choice to make, and it's wonderful. It works great. But I would imagine people would have liked to use Brad Pitt for the whole thing. So there's so many choices in this whole film. Like everything they did was just right.
Yeah. And when they do introduce him, his first word is the answer to the question. So he steps into the light and he says yes, right. And now you've established Brad Pitt is Death. right? Even before Parrish understands that he's talking to death. And it was just so good, so well done. Like, it's hard for me to not just like gush about it. Yes.
Although it was jarring at first seeing Brad Pitt step into the light, because what I had just seen moments earlier.
Yeah. And one of the other things about the filmmaking aspect of it all is they did a nice job with the repetition, because like early in the movie, Parrish, Anthony Hopkins asked his daughter about like, do you love Drew? And he's like, well, what do you want from me? And he basically says like, live, you should, like, love should be like this. You should experience stuff like this, or at least be open to it. And like, yeah, it's basically like 5-6 sentences in a row that's like a monologue of what love should be.
Here, I want to read this,
okay,
because it's we're not doing it justice by trying to describe it.
Okay.
It's like he says to his daughter, he's like, it's not what you say about Drew, it's about what you don't say. And Susan says, maybe you're not listening. He says, and his answer is, oh yes I am. There's not an ounce of excitement, not a whisper of a thrill. This relationship has all the passion of a pair of titmice. I want you to get swept away out there. I want you to levitate. I want you to sing with rapture and dance like a dervish. And she responds, is that all? He says, yeah, be deliriously happy, or at least leave yourself open to be. And that is the way he speaks, right? So, to Dante's point, when Death is making himself known to Bill Parrish, he's using his words, and he says these lines, but he says them differently.
And it's not the only time they get repeated throughout the film. Like, throughout the film, like I said earlier, like, love comes up a lot between family or potential mates. And, like, those, like, bits and pieces of that throughout the entire movie. And then, even, like, I think it only gets mentioned once, but, like, Death, like, when it's like, oh, Anthony Hopkins asked Death, like, hey, are people still dying? And he's like, okay, when you were, brushing your teeth this morning, were you just brushing your teeth? Like, no, you were planning, you were thinking, you were, doing all of these things. Like, so you know what it is to do multiple things at one time. Like, multiply that by infinity and take it to the depths of eternity, and you'll have the tiniest fraction of what I'm doing. And, like, that gets used against later. And it's like, the way they reuse what happened earlier in the movie.
And back at him, it was pretty good.
Yeah. It's like, the way they use repetition in a beautiful way.
Well, even the floating thing, or I want you to feel like you're fine. Like when she was dancing with Joe, she asked him, are we floating?
Yeah.
And here's another quote from the movie. Just because he's so eloquent about talking about what he wants his daughter to feel.
And just so you guys know, just imagine Anthony Hopkins saying this instead of Jose.
Yeah. Love is passion, obsession, someone you can't live without. I say fall head over heels. Find someone you can love like crazy and who will love you for the same way back. How do you find him? Well, you forget your head and listen to your heart. And I'm not hearing any heart. Because the truth is, honey, there's no sense in living your life without this. To make the journey and not fall deeply in love, well, you haven't lived at all. But to try, because if you haven't tried, you haven't lived. I think he sums up in that small monologue what it is to fall in love and to be loved and to share that with someone. And I really believe, that he's telling her this. You know how they say on films like, oh, we like became a family. I have to believe that they did, because their relationship. Again, I'm repeating myself now, but it's so believable. It's so believable. I want that to be real.
Yeah.
I want this whole thing to be real. Because. Go ahead, Brandon.
What did you think of the relationship between Bill and Allison?
I like her.
It was sad when she had that breakdown.
Yes, because she felt like she says to him, she's like, I know you love me, but not in the same way that you love her. When she walks into a room,
I think, were you talking about that scene or the earlier one?
No, that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's got it right.
Yeah, it's when she walks into a room, you light up, and when I walk into a room, the look on your face says, "Well, what does she want now?" And she says, "You're allowed to have your favorites, you know." And I've never wanted for anything, you know. But this whole thing that she says is really sad. It's upsetting.
Really sad.
You know, and I don't believe that Bill Parrish felt that way about her. I believe that was the way she felt about their relationship, right? So because he had a different relationship with her, she felt like they had a lesser relationship.
He didn't argue the point, though.
No, he didn't.
And you could kind of see, like,
And
I think there was a bit of truth. Like, what she saw wasn't completely inaccurate, I think.
Yeah, like
maybe not.
Look at more like when he was going to leave with Joe, when he was going to leave with Death. He was saying goodbye to a few people, and he hugged and kissed Allison, and then he just stared down the way at Susan, and you could see it in his eyes that he loved her more.
I don't know about more. I agree with what she says, that it was different, and I think, you know, one of the subplots of this whole thing is Allison's planning of the party, right? And it is a big deal to her, right? So the culmination.
It's a big deal, period.
Yeah, but we're talking about the relationships between them, right?
Yeah.
So this is like a big deal to her. She's trying really hard to make this a really great party, not just to make it a great party, but to make it a great party for her father, right? And the culmination, kind of like the climax of this, is him getting up on stage and making a speech after he blows out the candle on his cake. And I say candle, even though he was 65. I guess they didn't want to start a fire. And you know, he gives this really touching, moving speech about life and saying, you know, his wish is that everyone can feel the way he feels, right? So my takeaway when he comes off stage and goes up to Allison is he's giving her her moment. This is you did your job. I'm very happy with you. He says I love you, even though we don't get to hear it.
Well, no, I don't think that he doesn't love her. I just think that she's right, that Susan is his favorite. And the reason I think, at least my opinion of it, because early on when Susan and he are on the helicopter or plane or whatever it was, where he was giving her the speech about love, she asked, you know, what about you and Mom? And he said, forget about me and Mom. But I think that he did love his wife so much, and that Susan reminds him of his wife, and that's the reasoning.
By the same token, you can say that he loved his wife, and they had this really strong, real relationship. And Allison is married, and they truly love each other, right? But
yes.
Susan didn't have that, you know. So he was expressing to Susan what he wanted, and Allison could have had, you know, in his eyes, already had that. You know, that's kind of how I feel about it. I don't think he loves her any less. She might be his favorite. You know, I mean, people do that. They're nobody's gonna.
If nothing, not all can be perfectly equal.
Yeah, exactly.
But love isn't exactly quantifiable either. So.
But, you know, I think he felt like he needed to do for his one daughter what he didn't need to do for the other, because she already had it. And that's how I've always felt about them. From the first time I saw it, I've always thought that.
I liked how the Jamaican woman, to kind of shift gears a little, I like how the Jamaican woman right away knew who he was. Knew when I say he, I mean Joe Black or Death. She right away knew exactly who he was, and when no one else did.
Actually, she didn't. She thought he was something evil. He knew he was otherworldly, and he has to say to her. She's like, "Well, then what are you?" And he says, "I'm from the next place." So she thinks he's a demon.
Yeah. Well. Okay. I could see that.
Oh yeah. I don't
Yeah.
know what that means, but
I think they said, like, it's like, what does that mean? It says like
a bad spirit. Or
bad spirit, I think. And so I was like, oh no, I'm not evil. I'm just, like you said, from the next
Right.
place.
But like she gets over that really quickly, right? Because when they start talking, she's like, "Oh, you're doing things in my world, and that has consequences."
Yeah, and I thought it was kind of funny, like you know, like, oh, you're on holiday. This is a bad place to go on holiday. Yeah. It's like, really? You're gonna go to a hospital? Like, come on. Speaking of funny moments, near the end, where Joe Black decides to reveal to Drew who he is. Oh, that build-up was so great.
Yeah, because he like. Parrish is like, no, what are you doing?
I got this. I got this. Don't worry.
Yeah. You know, and you know,
I'm from the IRS.
Yes. Oh, so good, so good, right? And they make him twist, you know.
And back to the repetition thing, he brings back the
death and taxes.
The death and taxes that Drew used on him. So
which another great scene. He's like, just as certain as death and taxes, and he starts to talk, and Joe Black interrupts him. Death and taxes? And he's like, yes. And he just, death and taxes. Like, he was like offended. You know, like.
And that also leads to another great moment, too, where it's like, just like five seconds later, where, like, at the pretty much at the end of that little conversation, he's like, oh, yeah, if you want to know other common phrases and expressions, like, you know, like, I'm available, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, like I maintain regular office hours.
Yeah, and then, like, you see Joe Black's face go, like, oh, I now understand, like, you're not being nice or friendly at all. You're being a jerk.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll noted.
Yeah.
That's true, because he repeatedly says that throughout the movie with certain people, I don't like your tone.
Yeah. And the scene where, you know, we're kind of bouncing all over the place, but
well, that's because there's so many good scenes.
Yeah,
though.
after Death introduces himself to Parrish, and then he decides to stay for dinner, and he has to try to introduce this person to the rest of the people at dinner.
He's like, it's up to you.
Yeah, he's like, you got this.
Yeah, like there was like the long dramatic pause, like not dramatic pause, the long awkward pause.
Who is he? Aren't you going to introduce us?
Yeah. Like, oh yeah, and
Joe.
Yeah.
But even normally, if you're going to introduce yourself or someone's not introducing you, you step up and go, oh, I'm Dante, or something like that. Yeah. But like he was just standing there going like, go ahead. You know,
he just like smiling.
And just refused to say a word. I'm like, oh, you're going to tell them what my name is.
Even when they went to the boardroom, he's like, go ahead.
So some of the interesting stuff about this movie, though, so Anthony Hopkins knocks this out of the park in this role, right? But the role wasn't written for him. It was actually written for Gene Hackman. Can you imagine Gene Hackman in that role? No, I can't. You know, when the guy in the coffee shop first appears...
I feel like Gene Hackman's too much of an asshole, character-wise, from everything I've seen him in.
Yeah, I can understand that. So yeah, I couldn't see him in this role at all. But when the guy at the coffee shop first appears, he's obscured by a translucent, like he's in a phone on the other side of the phone booth. And when he first appears to Anthony Hopkins, he's obscured by like stained glass, right?
I'm surprised I didn't ever make that connection, even though it's really, really obvious.
Well, actually, when he first appears to Anthony Hopkins, it wasn't stained glass. It was like a...
It was through a bookshelf.
It was through
behind,
a bookshelf,
yeah. I saw the bookshelf, but to me, it looked like it was just like an apparition within the bookshelf.
No,
it was either frosted or stained glass. It was something like that.
I'll have to re-watch that, because it looked odd, because I didn't see any glass.
Okay, so when you get the chance, go on IMDb and just read the same thing I'm reading.
No, watch it again. It's worth it.
But when they showed this on television or like on airlines, it's a 2-hour version.
Wow.
They cut an hour of this movie out.
I don't know how they would do that. Because like the pacing is a huge part of it. It's methodical and deliberate and very, methodical.
They cut out most of what's going on at the business.
I guess Brad Pitt and Anthony Hopkins. I forgot they were in Legends of the Fall.
Yes.
Oh.
Another. Anyway.
Like, I can see why, like, okay, they cut out what happens in most of the business because what most of what we're talking about, it's all about the relationships and the family and the interactions between, and, like, love is a stronger part of it than the business takeover and what's going on there. But it still seems like what's moving forward, you know what I mean? Like, even, like, there's... That seems really important. I don't know. Like, I don't know.
They would have to completely cut all of that out. Like,
you know, in Mr. and Mrs. Smith, they did that for the theatrical release. Like, when they first filmed it, they had more happening, like, with the organizations that each of them worked for. And then, like, when I guess they went to whatever it is when people vote what they like and don't like, they realized, like, oh...
Focus groups.
Yeah, focus groups, thank you. What they basically did is cut out all but, like, 2 scenes that didn't have at least one of them in it, or them in it together or talking to each other or something.
Right. But one of the things in this movie, and I love this, and you guys might have noticed while we were watching it, I was kind of mouthing the words. The last dance between him and his daughter, Susan, they're playing the song "What a Wonderful World."
Yeah,
right?
I heard.
And I love that song.
Yeah.
I love that song, and it's so appropriate for this. And like this is where you realize it's kind of a fantasy role, but what a send off! If you could choose how you wanted to die, like how you wanted to go, what a send off! This magnificent party, fireworks and
see,
your 2 daughters and.
The only thing that's actually not believable throughout the whole movie, obviously we know it's fantasy and stuff, but at the end, when young man in coffee shop comes back and is talking to Susan, she does realize that it's no longer Joe Black. She, you can tell that they have their dialogue, but then she doesn't even say, mention or think about like, oh yeah, I should probably, call the police because, my dad's dead over that bridge.
So,
I'm just going to go back to the party.
Yeah, 2 very different points you're making there. But she recognizes he is not the same person earlier. Like when they first come together at the party and have that conversation, she's like, "You're someone else," right? And he tells her, he comes out and says, "You will." He's like, "I can promise you this: you will always have what you found at the coffee shop." Right? And what he's actually telling her is, when I'm gone, I'm gonna bring that guy back.
Yeah.
So her dealing with that, I think, however fantasy-like it is, I think it's explained pretty well.
I don't mean that. I'm talking about, why wouldn't she call someone for her dead dad over the bridge?
I think that's more of a, like, that's a movie thing.
Yeah.
Like,
it's an artistic choice.
Yeah, basically, because the movie has to end.
Yeah.
And, like, it's the whole point of the movie. It's like, it would be weird otherwise.
Yeah. If she called, like, the police or an ambulance or whatever, and then the party got all broken up, and you're like, and then they walked away with the happy ending. That's
True.
strange.
True, but it's almost just as strange for her to just be like, yeah, we can go back to the party. I'm not going to question why my dad's not coming back.
Had she not figured out that he was deaf, had she not figured out that her father had died, her father walked away. Would she call the police because her father walks away?
Well, no, but she would at least ask Joe, "Where's my dad?"
He'd be like, "Over there."
Well, and his response would be like, "I don't know. Well, who's your dad?"
She even said, like, it would have been like,
I wish you could have met my father.
Yes, and
well, I know she acknowledged it, but and the way she said it, that's what acknowledges that she knows he's dead.
Yes. Yeah. No. I agree with that. I'm just saying. I think the choices they made were completely appropriate. Were the best choices they could have made for this film. It would have lessened it for them to do anything else.
And I think Brandon kind of agrees with that. He just says
Yeah,
it's not realistic.
I don't disagree that it would lessen the film. It's just that's the only point that I don't believe character.
I believe all of it. Believe all of it, and I'm not gonna believe anything else. I mean, it's an amazing film. It's an amazing film. It's an amazing piece of art. It's an example of amazing acting and amazing writing. There's nothing wrong with this movie. I'd love to know who you said, who said that he was miscast in this, so I could slap them across the face. I mean.
Oh, for a split second to go back to your point about you would be shitting your pants if you had to stare down Anthony Hopkins. If this were the first movie that they were in together, I would agree with that. But
Legends of the Fall came after.
Yeah, no, Legends of the Fall came before.
1994.
Yeah, and this is 98.
Yes, you're right. I'm sorry. I'm thinking about something else. But I think I was thinking about the previous movie. But there's nothing I don't like about this film, and normally we kind of do our little Sam Jackson. I'm hesitant to.
I already got my choice.
I don't want to change anything about this movie.
I got the perfect answer for this, at least for me.
So Dante.
If I had to change someone to Sam Jackson, Drew. I think he'd make a pretty interesting nice guy turn traitor. He could do it pretty well, I think. It'd be interesting with the eye patch and scar.
I suppose that could work. Brandon?
The butler, who gave him the peanut butter.
That's racist.
Why is that racist?
He already played that role in that movie. Django?
Django.
Yeah. Why you gotta make him a butler?
Because I wouldn't want to actually take away from any of the other characters.
I think the butler did a great job in that scene between him when he's offering him peanut butter. And not making him feel like an asshole for never having tasted peanut butter before. And the way he deals with he gives him a scoop and he eats it. Then he was like, "Would you like some more?" Goes and gets another spoon. I think the butler did fine. I don't want to change it.
Well, then fine. Now you have to answer since we both did. We have our answers. Who do you pick?
Okay, so the scene when they're walking down the street, and there's a and Dante actually talked about this where they are off in the distance, but you can still see them, right? Sam Jackson is the guy in the blue suit that walks across this way, and that's my choice because
that would be the most epic cameo of all time.
Because this movie is perfect. This movie is perfect, and I don't want to alter it in any way.
What about one of the maids?
Still racist. Why you gotta make him a servant, huh? Just because he's black? Notice, it's the white guy saying this, by the way. I just want to point that out. See, I said he gets to wear a suit over his leather jacket. Trench coat.
The trench coat should be over the suit.
No. Inside the jacket and then stuffed into the pants.
Oh,
you could even leave it hanging out a little bit just to see but.
All right. What about one of the board members?
Okay, again, board. Yeah, one of the board members that never speaks.
Not the one that's on his side.
Yeah,
no,
not the one that's on his side. Because, I don't want to change anything.
He could just be like, "No, this is why I got trust issues."
And then there's our other question, and I'm still hesitant. I like this movie so much. Dante.
Yeah.
How is this movie like Gladiator?
Well, people die. There's death in it.
One has to assume people are dying all over the world. Yes. Only one person dies in this movie.
Loving someone you can't have.
See?
You said wanting something you can't have?
Loving someone you can't have.
Oh.
See? So you're better at this than you are.
But we started something wonderful because of it.
This movie's so good. I can't stop saying that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it in my opinion. I don't know how many times I've seen this movie. easily in my top 5 all-time favorite movies. I've never actually tried ranking it, but just...
I have a question about that, though.
What's that?
Okay, so easily within your top 5 all-time favorite movies. I'm guessing Star Wars, Star Trek are in there, right?
Star Trek.
Because I'm wondering, how many movies do those count for? But that's something to figure out later.
That's something else, yeah.
And where does some of these, some of the things that we didn't have done, rank in there?
You're gonna have the longest top 5 list ever.
Yeah, this is a different kind of conversation.
If I had to come up with a top 5, I think I'd be busy for like 5 weeks.
Yeah, no kidding.
Very little sleep.
Because
I'd have to rewatch everything.
Yeah, but it's such a good movie. I think it's a great example. If you like film and you haven't seen this movie, shame on you. Okay, go out and get this movie immediately. If you know someone that hasn't seen this movie that likes film, shame on you. Go out and make them watch this movie.
We should have been shamed for all the time we've known Brandon.
I didn't know he hadn't seen it.
There's lots of movies that you guys didn't know that I hadn't seen. This is not the first time this has happened.
So, it's a great movie. It's a great movie, and I'm not gonna stop saying that. So, anyone else have some final thoughts?
Definitely watch it. Yeah, I agree with Jose.
Yeah, definitely watch it. It was worth it, and get someone to, if you haven't seen it, get someone to record your reaction for the coffee shop.
This isn't Game of Thrones. This isn't the Red Wedding.
Something that I noticed, I'm not sure if Slider noticed, that I thought was hilarious. At least like the last 30, 40 minutes of the movie, Brandon's mouth was open the whole time. Like, his mouth was like...
No, I didn't notice that.
That's all right. My mouth was open. I was surprised and I was saddened by things. But I did catch you.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm a crybaby.
No, it's a wonderful. I mean, I get a lump in my throat.
No, I did too.
And like for you like to say I have no heart. It's because I have none left after this movie. It's all taken away by this movie. All right, it's time to pick our next movie.
Well, while he's rolling that means that the next movie, if it has anything to do with heart, he's going to hate it.
All right. Well, it's your job.
O64.
Not to be confused with an N64.
Oh.
So let's see.
The excitement's killing me. Let's go.
Oh, yeah.
I'm working on it, but some of these papers are not the same size. I blame you.
So close.
There it is.
Whoop, there it is. That's from Tag Team, by the way.
Now if I can not fuck these up.
Jesus.
Hey, I
this new list is harder to deal with.
Yeah. We were just talking about that today. RoboCop. No worries about heart here. So, all right.
Well, he technically doesn't have one, so.
So that's it. Meet Joe Black is probably one of the best films you will ever see, and it's probably one of the best films we've ever talked about on this show. So on that note, on behalf of myself, Brandon, Dante, I'm going to say that is a wrap.